Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome back to my YouTube channel, and if you're new, then welcome. I'm a professional makeup artist and my channel is all about educational beauty. Now in today's video, I'm going to be showing you the best coverage foundation to use when you're contouring. So on one side of my face, I'm going to be showing you with a specific coverage, and then the other side a different coverage so that you guys can see which is the best to use when you're contouring. So before we head into the video, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell button so that you never miss any of my future videos. And also don't forget that I'm over on Instagram too, so you can catch me there for daily beauty news on my stories or just generally stuff that I get to do when I'm not filming for YouTube. So let's jump straight into the video. So as you can see, I have nothing on my face other than a bit of concealer on my eyelid, my brows are done, and a little bit of mascara. I already have my moisturizer on, and I also have my primer on, which by the way is the Charlotte Tilbury Invisible Flawless Poreless primer, because it's SPF 50, so that's great for me because it's a primer and SPF in one. So I'm going to move on now to my contouring, because I want to do that first and then show you what the best coverage is when you're applying your foundation over your contour. Now I know if there's anyone watching who is kind of like, okay, why are you applying your contouring underneath your foundation, then you need to head over to another video that I have that explains exactly why I use this technique, and it's because it gives you a really nice soft focus finish. I have tried contouring on top of foundation. I just don't like it. It's too harsh. For me anyway, I know it may suit some people, but I feel like I get a much nicer kind of seamless finish when my contouring is underneath my foundation. So if you're already confused, then you need to head over to a different video to see exactly why this is an amazing technique. Those of you who have been following me for a while, and I've completely converted to the contouring underneath foundation, then you guys are going to love this, because I do get some of you asking me which coverage or which foundation is best for that, because some people say, oh, I applied my foundation and it kind of like just covered everything up. It depends on the coverage that you use. So that's what I want to show you today. On one side, I'm going to be doing a full coverage foundation on top of my contouring, and then on the other side I'm going to be using kind of light to medium coverage so that you guys can see exactly why you need to use a much lighter foundation. You shouldn't really need to use a full coverage foundation on top of contouring, because all of your coverage is kind of done with your contouring, like because we use concealers for contouring. So I'm going to move on to my concealer. I'm going to use my Tarte Shape Tape in medium because this is the concealer that I really do love, and I'm going to start applying this on my under eyes, and then I'm going to go in with a much lighter shade on the areas that I want to kind of really bring out. So I'm going to apply this here. So really I use a concealer to give me that coverage, and at the same time it helps to kind of contour certain areas. So this is the concealer I like to use on my under eyes, because really in terms of concealing, that's the main area that I'm interested in concealing. Like I'm not fussed about blemishes and stuff, even though I do have dark spots, but I know that my foundation and my concealer when I start contouring is going to kind of do that anyway for me. So now I'm going to use my NARS Radiant Creamy Concealer, and I am going to apply this in certain areas that I really want to highlight. So I really want to enhance those areas. So that would be this area here. You can have your own technique of contouring. Like, I'm sure it's not going to be exactly like this because this is based on my face shape and what I'm trying to enhance for myself. So it may be slightly different for you. Now, what I'm going to do is get my beauty blender and just kind of buff in my under eyes and just kind of nicely conceal that area. Okay, I'm getting my Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood complexion brush, and I'm just going to kind of smooth over the other areas. Now I'm going to use my NARS concealer again, but much darker shade. So I'm going to apply this in all the areas that I like to kind of contour. Now I'm going to buff this in using my Charlotte Tilbury Hollywood complexion brush. So I'm going to keep the shape kind of similar, and I just want to kind of diffuse the edges basically. So you can see that the shapes are all the same, but we've just diffused the edges so that it doesn't look so harsh. Now for the interesting part. So on one side of my face, I'm going to be using a full coverage foundation. On the other side, I'm going to be using a kind of light to medium coverage foundation. Both of these foundations are great. I absolutely love them, but I wanted to show you which coverage works better on top of contouring, because the people who say, oh, doesn't that cover it all up? Yes, if you use a full coverage foundation, it's going to cover it up, and then there wouldn't have been any point of contouring. But if you use a light or medium coverage foundation, then that kind of contour is still kind of coming through because the coverage isn't so intense, so you see just the right amount of this contouring, which gives you that nice soft focus effect without it looking like you've harshly contoured in any way. So on the full coverage side, I'm going to be using the Natasha Denona Fruit Complex foundation. This is a great foundation, I really do love it. My shade is 48W medium. So I'm going to grab this on the back of my hand, and I'm just going to get my sponge. So I'm going to start from the forehead and then work my way down, and then obviously I'm going to leave. It's always a little bit difficult to do half face when you've got like your nose. That's really difficult, but you know, we're going to do it. I think I've got a bit of practice. So I'm going to start on my forehead. So as you can see, it's kind of like covering up everything. You can see a tiny bit of the contour coming through, but not really as much as I would like. You can see how that has literally covered everything up, albeit an amazing foundation. I really do love this foundation, but there wasn't really much point in me kind of contouring underneath. I feel like it's kind of covered everything up. I don't see any of the sculpting coming through. I don't see much definition or depth coming through. So I feel like I could have really just applied a layer of this foundation and it would have kind of looked more or less the same. So hopefully that shows you, yes, you're gonna cover everything up if you're gonna be using a full coverage foundation. Okay, so I'm gonna move on to a different coverage foundation. I'm using the Charlotte Tilbury Beautiful Skin Foundation. This is a new foundation, and I really wanted to share this with you as well because this is an amazing foundation. Thankfully, I've received the full range from Charlotte Tilbury, so I'm really, really happy about that because it's perfect for my kit working on clients. It's definitely something that's gonna go into my kit. I found that my shade is kind of 9 neutral, but I can also be a 10 neutral. 10 neutral is a little bit warmer, so it's not warmer, but it's a little bit darker. It depends. I feel like it depends on the kind of makeup look I'm going for. I could get away with 9 neutral, but if I want to really look a little bit more warmer, like a little bit darker, then I can go for the 10 neutral. So this is a kind of like medium coverage foundation. It helps your skin still look like skin, and it really, really does. Yeah, I want to show you this. So let's apply some. So I'm going to apply, I think I am going to go a little bit warmer. So I'm going to mix a little bit of that 10 in with this. So tiny bit of that just to kind of warm it up a bit. Okay, so I'm applying it to my beauty blender, and let's see what this looks like. Now, this is a kind of foundation you could wear on its own as well. Like, it's not a something that you have to wear concealer with. I think if you've already got great kind of skin and you don't need to apply much concealer, then you're gonna love this foundation. You can already see there's more warmth here. You can see how that's just not covering everything. I'm gonna just go under the eye area. Okay, so hopefully you guys can see a difference through the camera, because the reason why I apply contouring underneath foundation is because it's so soft focus and it's so subtle. So it isn't like there's gonna be a drastic difference, but I really want you guys to see that using a full coverage is just gonna cover everything up and you don't see much depth on my cheekbones. Whereas on this side, I see depth. So I can see that kind of slight warmth here where I applied my contouring underneath there. I can see that on the perimeter of my face, it's a little bit warmer because the coverage is not as heavy as this side. So this is great if you want that finish, but what I'm trying to say is there's no point putting contouring underneath. You might as well just kind of do it on top really and just make sure you blend really, really well. So I feel like with this is great, but it doesn't work on top of contouring. If you're going to be applying foundation on top of contour and you want that really nice soft focus effect, like I feel like this is pretty full coverage, it's pretty opaque, and on this side I feel like there's more depth and it just looks a bit more real, if you see what I mean. So you can see that there's a bit more, you know, it's not as matte, it's not as opaque. You can see that there's that kind of nice definition here a little bit, but it's very soft focus, as I said, and you've still got that warmth around there. And obviously it's really difficult to tell with the nose because the nose is such a small feature in comparison to the rest of the face, and the surface area is not so big. It's not flat, so you can't, it's kind of hard to see the coverage there. So I wouldn't even really look at that part. I'd look at places like the cheekbone, all the big areas that I applied it to. I can really see the difference. I mean, there's nothing there, but there's that nice soft kind of like depth there. So yeah, hopefully this shows you what the difference is when you apply a full coverage on top of contouring and when you apply light to medium coverage on top of contouring. You can obviously go a bit heavy, you can build up the coverage with a medium foundation, so you can keep building this up if you want. But ultimately, if you are looking to use the same technique that I use, which is contouring underneath foundation, then you want to go for just a nice kind of, like, I didn't even put on too much foundation here. This foundation is just really good in terms of full coverage without it looking too cakey, but it does cover everything up. Whereas this side, I feel like if you're not looking for full coverage, this technique is great. And obviously then you can set it however you want. I didn't want to set this because I know that a lot of people don't actually set their foundation and maybe just apply it in certain areas that they want to. So I really wanted you to see it as skin, you know, as with the foundation on without any powder, so you can really see the difference. And also people will set their makeup in a very different way, so I don't want to just set it in my way and then you get confused with which kind of foundation to use. I'd rather you just see what I'm trying to show you and then you can set it however you want to. So hopefully this kind of clears up for you why it is always best to use a light or medium coverage foundation when you're applying it on top of contouring. Well, there you go. I really do hope you enjoyed that video and you've seen for yourself and figured out which kind of coverage you prefer. Now, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell button so that you never miss any of my future videos. Until the next video, take care and I'll see you soon.